Hello and welcome to this F1 preview. I'm Lewis. Well, after the first race in Bahrain, I thought the race, well, a lot of people thought as well. I think the media, the press, it was a pretty boring race and uneventful, but it wasn't the worst race. I mean, it could have quite easily, I remember the years of, well, for the four years of Schumacher dominating, those were boring because he was winning by a minute, and at least there was some twists in the race which made it a bit all of the Vettel problem. That sort of made a twist, but I agree with respects to the way everyone did the same thing meant that no one could make an advantage. Everyone was saying this would improve overtaking because it gave them the incentive to actually overtake. That wasn't the problem. The drivers already wanted to overtake because that's what you want to do when you're driving. You want to overtake. If you're quicker than someone, you're right up with someone, you want to overtake them. But basically, with I know it's the aerodynamics, the mechanical grip. It's something's preventing the drivers from overtaking, and this has caused them to just follow in a train, and that's not racing. That's just parading around for 70. How many laps it was? 51 laps. I know 48 laps, something like that. So the start and qualifying is pretty much the biggest part now. Qualifying, definitely. You need to have a quick car now. It's more important than ever, really, to get that car flying, to then get pole, and then you can control the race. When you're in the lead, it seems as though you don't have to do very much, because with the fuel strategies of last year meant you could gain if you had a better strategy. Now everyone's just doing the same thing, which is put a soft tyre on for qualifying, do the first 15 laps of that in the race. If you're the top 10, you have to keep your same tyre that you did the fastest lap in qualifying with. Alright, people thought that would give the people behind an advantage, but in the end it didn't, as it was evidently shown. People tried it with the hard tyre, so then they could go faster through the race, but the best strategy, it seemed, was doing 15 laps on the soft tyre coming in, then doing the rest of the race on the harder compound tyre, which it managed. So I could see there, it was a bit boring. What they could do is make a tyre that, what they should do is make a tyre that won't last that distance. But the problem is that it wouldn't last the distance if the drivers went flat out. However, the team told the drivers to not drive flat out for the majority of the race. They had to drive around 2 to 3 seconds a lap slower. 2 to 3 seconds a lap slower each lap, just so they could do the whole distance on that tyre, and they worked out that that was better than doing an extra stop and going flat out through the whole race. And I'm not sure about that. I think they just did that because that's the most conservative option. I think if someone does, like a team like Force India or Williams, who are just coming in the top 10, or Renault, it'd be interesting to see if they try that 2-stop. I don't know if it'd work with tracks like Australia, but Bahrain it could have well, because Bahrain's such a long circuit. It might have paid off actually doing the 2-stop. Some teams did do it. I mean, Sutil and Luizzi, they weren't properly on the pace, and also Sutil and Kubica had the off in the first lap, so that sort of mucked up their strategy. But I'm not so sure about the 1-stop. I reckon you could go 2-stopper on that and just go then flat out for the whole race rather than having to keep it steady. But it's basically they're treating it like an endurance race, which it's not really. It's a Grand Prix, which is a big race, not an endurance race, like a 24-hour Le Mans. Then you would expect that, but this is not. We want to see drivers going flat out for the whole race. So that was quite disappointing. It was expected to be this massive overtaking, the new teams. It was going to be expected to be big, and it hasn't. So that's gonna be. So I myself thought it was. I agree. I'm guilty as well. That the race. I thought the racing was going to be fantastic. I thought the refueling was a good. Like, the refueling ban was a good step. Takes the strategy out of it, more down to the racing. But at the end of the day, the drivers can't do anything about it. It's out of their hands, and that's not racing. And they have to be careful. F1. If they don't do this right, and it spends like this for the whole season, they'll lose quite a few people, and they need to sort out for next season as well. Of course, the double diffuser is banned for next season, so that will help a bit for those to being a bit closer. But they have to be careful, because if it's single file, especially, I mean, it's going to be bad enough for single file this season. People are going to be really ticked off. If it wasn't so hyped up at the beginning of the season, I don't think people would be as annoyed. But because it was so much hype, 8 drivers had the chance of winning the World Championship. The big four, the lap times were hideously off the pace of qualifying, about, in the end, only 3 seconds. And you're not getting a true pace, because I think the fastest lap in the race was to Robert Kubica, and he finished 11th. So you don't have to be the fastest now to win the race. You just have to be basically the fastest in qualifying, get pole position, get through the first lap, and then you can control the race from there. Make a gap so you have enough for your one and only pit stop. Once you get past that hurdle, as long as you don't get a problem like Vettel had, you're fine, and you can be 4 seconds off the pace, and you'll still be able to keep ahead of the driver behind you, because they just can't get past. And the harder they try, the more their tyres wear out. So they were saying, if Vettel didn't crash, if Vettel didn't have that problem, then Alonso would have made a move, surely. I don't think so. They said, he had a plan. He was planning his tyres. I don't think so. He couldn't. The Ferrari team were telling him to slow down because the engine was overheating. And also when he got anywhere near him, he couldn't get any closer, because the thing you saw, Mark Webber and Jenson Button were behind Michael Schumacher for about 25 or for 30 laps, and they couldn't do anything about it. So I wouldn't say that. They're just saying that. I think people were saying that to say, this could have happened. But to be honest, no offence to Vettel, but that made the race more interesting. It would have been a dull race. The fact that Vettel crashed made it, something's actually happened in the race. He didn't crash, sorry. The engine sounded sick. They said he had a spark plug issue, which I think is probably the case, or an exhaust pipe crack. It's one of the two. And it leaked, and of course you lose 50 horsepower around about there. So yeah, but with the